Hello, I'm Andrew, and I'm a member of the Madison International Marxist Tendency, and I will be your host today in this edifying event on the COVID response on campus at the university, specifically on the University of Wisconsin, and also generally around the country. We'll start off with a bit of an introduction by myself, and then we will have a lead off on the discussion on the topic of discussion by a comrade, Dylan, and then we will go to Zoom. We will post a link in the comments once the lead off is over, once the introduction to the topic is over, to how to get into the Zoom to have a broader discussion on the event. We are the International Marxist Tendency. As I mentioned, we are a revolutionary organization of workers and youth fighting for the transformation of society on the basis of a socialist program. We are doing our part here in Madison by having these events, by being involved locally, and by educating ourselves in revolutionary ideas. And if you are interested in getting in touch with us, you can find us at imtmadison.org. You can contact us on our Facebook page. And if you're interested in supporting us and not getting involved, you can donate to us on Venmo at Ivy Geertz. That is at IVEGEERTS. It's at the bottom of the screen every so often as well. We are one branch of many branches across this country in many different cities. And have a national website, socialistrevolution.org, of which we sell a paper of the same name. We are one section in the United States of over 40 countries around the world. That's what it means to be an international Marxist tendency, fighting for world revolution and for workers and youth to take control of society as a whole. Marxists and socialists have always had strong connections and strong support with college students and campus and on campuses and on campus. A lot of great revolutionaries became such through becoming active in campus activism while they were young, and have got tied to revolutionary organizations like our own through that work. And in turn, revolutionary organizations have supported students on campus for the history of socialism and Marxism. Education is fundamental to the well-being of humanity, to the progress, both materially and culturally, of our society. And yet, as with so many things that were once progressive about capitalism in the early days, the growth of knowledge and education, it's become a reactionary force in many ways, a way to exploit people, and a site of class conflict, where they're trying to roll back the gains that the working class had fought to achieve in the past, and creating and heightening the tensions that we believe will lead to revolution. This has only been accelerated with COVID, and while with all the strains that puts on the students, the student workers, and the workers on campus, especially grad student workers, as I once was not too long ago. And so without further ado on this complex topic about the concrete struggles going on right now with the COVID pandemic and the university's failure to respond appropriately in a way that centers the experience of workers and student workers, I'm introducing the fierce revolutionary class fighter and campus activist and student himself, Dylan. So take it away, Dylan.
Hello, everyone, and good evening. As we all know, the pandemic began last year and has been the latest craze sweeping the nation ever since. with, frankly, if I may say, rates of infection and death that are purely unacceptable in any nation that claims to be the wealthiest and greatest in all the world. Now, for the purposes of tonight, I will be talking purely about my experiences and the conditions here on the University of Wisconsin campus in Madison. However, if that doesn't pertain to you specifically, I'd still love for you to stay tuned and stick around here with us, because I have a sinking feeling a lot will sound familiar. Without further ado, I'd like to begin with a short timeline of what happened as soon as the pandemic started, as I was attending my second year. Spring break was about to begin, and as it did, it was extended an extra week as the school essentially scrambled to plan for the rest of the semester that would be and had to be all online. And they did, and the semester that followed in the fall was what they liked to call a hybrid semester. And for us, that meant 40% of classes were to be online, the remaining 60% were to be in person. Needless to say, cases did not go down. Cases, in fact, in that period skyrocketed in several phases. And as a reaction from the school, they had to shut down all in-person classes for a week. They did this not once, but twice in that semester. So not once, but two times they had to completely disrupt the flow of learning and the flow of the semester because cases had gotten too high and their initial plan had fallen apart. And the changes at which they placed upon it after each instance of this were simply inadequate. After those 2 weeks of 2 non-consecutive weeks, of having all on in-person classes suspended and moved to online, cases got so bad on our fair campus that 2 entire dorms, Whitty and Celery, if I recall, the largest on campus, had to be fully quarantined. Now, don't get me wrong; those dorms have a bit of a reputation for being the party dorms, but that should be no excuse. Letting things get so bad that mid-semester, 2 entire buildings full of hundreds of people who all have to live there full time had to be completely quarantined because the situation had gotten so out of hand. After Thanksgiving, which was originally planned by the university to their credit, everything was switched to fully online, which I suppose was something that the teaching staff and other staff had the ability to prepare for. But still, it took them a fair and long time to get to that point. The following semester, the spring semester, our current semester, in fact, you would think they would have learned from their mistakes, but no. It went from complete negligence and ignoring of the crisis to going into full panic mode, which doesn't sound terrible in and of itself, being faced with such a terrible situation. But let me explain further what the administration did. The new policy of the day was that all students needed to test every 3 days. An app installed on our phone called Badger Safe, which monitored our testing. And with this new app, students would be able to enter buildings and it's essentially attend their classes, which again, a sizable chunk of them were to be in person. Um, I believe this was some kind of initiative on behalf of the administration to incentivize students to get tested much more regularly by making it so they can only attend their classes by uh, getting routinely tested every 3 days. Otherwise, they would be forbidden from entering buildings. But this didn't work, apparently. Cases were still on the rise. And so the administration started referring students who were not keeping in line with routine testing to the disciplinary committee. Those students who were on campus were to face disciplinary action if they did not test every 3 days. Now, coinciding with this, all buildings were open to students who had tested. The sports were beginning to reopen for their seasons, um, and cases were still rising, but we just operated, our administration at the very least just operated under the assumption that everything was fine. Now, I want to stress very clearly, I am not against testing. I am not against taking precautionary steps to deal with this very real and very important crisis of global pandemic. But what the administration did here was put the brunt of the crisis, put the responsibility of dealing with the problems on the students who have no say in how things operate at this school. The same goes with the staff. Uh, for undergrads, there's measurably more work and fewer days off. The fewer days off is to decentivize travel, and tuition has gone up while people in high positions of the administration have gotten raises, including our current chancellor, Miss Rebecca Blank. For grad students, it's even worse. Tolerate my use of an anecdote here, but a friend of mine who is a grad student told me that they are treated as workers or as students, depending on what's convenient for the university. And I'm inclined to believe him very much, because looking at what they have to deal with, it's just abysmal, especially even before COVID times, even before global pandemic. These grad students were denied any kind of workers' benefits, and not paid a fair wage. Their wage is around $20,000 stipend per year, but not paid a fair wage for all the other expenses and student fees that they had to pay for, and the time compared to the time commitment they put in. They are working what is essentially the ones who are working with the university are working what is essentially a full-time job, along with additional studies and additional time commitment to advancing their degree, and paid that amount with no benefit. And the justification given for this is, well, you are students, you are getting the ability to study at this university. And then on the other side of that same coin, they're denied certain benefits that are reserved for students, grad workers, having to pay for their own board and make like serious and rigorous time commitments to their jobs as TAs and to as students, a sort of second shift almost, but paid not nearly enough to live on. And how are they supposed to accommodate for this? They don't have the time to get a second job, most of them. We're essentially working our people to death. And let me reiterate, these are the people without which our college would not run. In the pandemic, this has only gotten worse. Wages have stagnated among the sort of common working people at this university, among them the grad students, but also any number of different technical faculty and staff, residential workers, maintenance workers, sanitation workers, you name it, combined with a sweeping trend of layovers and firings that had to happen, that happened at the start, and then less so, but habitually throughout this pandemic, making it just abysmal to work here. In addition, the grad students had to put up with just the horrible mismanaging on behalf of the administration that we mentioned before, making it so they couldn't plan for anything because the next week, poof, things were so bad, things got so bad that plans had to be completely rewritten, and the staff just had to work around this. It's very clear that all of these things considered, a very distinct section of people at our university stand to gain from the way things have been run now. The administration gets to make all of these decisions and assume none of the risk and none of the penalty for this crisis. The brunt of these problems are put on the students, our grads, and the common university workers, because there is, well, for a number of reasons, but it's very clear that this is the state of affairs at our good campus. This is nothing new. I want to stress more than anything that this struggle in our microcosm of a university is comparable to the struggle of workers both on campus and off of it. People all around the country have been carrying and shouldering the weight of this crisis, and have been completely cast aside as the rich and the powerful sit pretty in their lavish estates, making public statements about how we're all in this together. I say that these people, these incredibly rich elites, these administrative bureaucrats in the offices at our university, have no right to run things, and especially have no right to run things the way they have been. These elites, these administrators, are unelected. They're seldom held accountable to their actions, and ought to be absolved of their positions and property by which they exert their influence over society. As we transform our institutions into something that's run by the people who actually have to live in it, the people who it affects the most. We can build institutions, we can build a society where leaders are accountably elected and recallable at any time if they fail to meet the needs of the people to which they represent, where production is determined and allocated by what society needs and voted on by everyone, instead of in the hands of a select few people who get to call the shots because of a piece of paper saying that they own it. The only way to do this is uniting as students and as workers, to throw off our bonds and to take our institutions by the reins. Thank you.
Thank you, Dylan. That was a very great introduction to this topic, and we are now going to head to the Zoom for the chat. So we will be posting a Zoom link, the registration, into the comments section of this video shortly. So please follow that link. If you enjoyed the talk or just want to ask questions or comments, would like to further this discussion, if you would like to know more about us, if you would like to know about our revolutionary ideas and how to further this fight, please join that chat. Please also check out our websites, socialistrevolution.org. Marxist.com is our international website. Our local website here in Madison, imtmadison.org. Keep following us on Facebook for our further next events. We have an event coming up in a couple weeks' time on April 15th. That's a Thursday at the same time, 6 o'clock. That will be an event on a revolutionary Marxist approach to the climate change catastrophe. This is one of the most urgent problems for our planet as a whole, for humanity, our species, for our society, for us individually, especially as young people, but anyone who cares about the future of our people, of our loved ones, descendants. The climate struggle is an enormously important fight right now. And we believe fervently there is really no solution under capitalism. Only with workers' struggle and workers' revolution can we solve problems like the campus struggle, like climate, like oppression, like we've talked about in previous events. So again, keep checking out our work. We have articles on these topics on socialistrevolution.org and Marxist.com. Join our discussion. If you're still here, it means you probably haven't joined the discussion. So go do that. And I look forward to talking with you in that discussion and further in the streets, on the picket lines, and in the revolution. Solidarity.